Good afternoon. What's going down, team? Welcome, welcome. All right, as people start coming in, we will begin. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Tuesday. Ramon and C's with us. Top nail, what's going down? Welcome to the program. Thank you guys for joining YouTube Live. Welcome to another edition of Nail School. We're gonna keep focusing on fundamentals today. So definitely want to work on Victoria. How's it going? Matchkin, how's it going? From Denmark, Tanya, Toria, Rick, Deja, what is up? From Norway, how's it going? Tips Diva, Cheryl, always a pleasure to have you here. Kayla, thank you guys. I really, really appreciate it. Got the whole family. Carissa, Foriva, Cheryl, Victoria. Dude, it's amazing. Love that you guys are joining us. Okay, let's get right into this. For those of you guys who just joined us, who are not subscribed, make sure that you subscribe and smash that like button. Okay. Picking up acrylic, right? The biggest challenge a lot of people have, especially a lot of beginners that are struggling with this. We're going to be going into detail about this because I feel that for those of you guys that struggle, I'm not going to just be working with the Signature Series brush, which is my number 12. I'm going to be also working with the Artistic Sculptor, which is the number 9. And you'll notice, right, when I submerge my brush, right, I want to make sure that I am, again, I load it. So when I fill the dish, right, I fill it up about, I'd say, let me get a little bit more monomer. I feel that there's not enough. For those of you guys that need to pour this in your dish without spilling, hold the bottle up to the ferrule. That's going to let you administer it into the dish without spilling down the side of the bottle. A little less than half will be good, okay? All right. We need to load this up so it literally is dripping off the brush. This is going to allow you to touch the center, right? And that way, when you come down at the angle, look at this, that's the angle that I'm pulling. But you guys will also notice when I'm actually picking up powder, I like to hold my finger and balance it as well. I like to position it in a way where if I'm pulling down and I'm actually bouncing inside the powder, I'm gonna be able to get a nice bead on one side of the brush. Now, again, cover, right? You'll notice if I am working with a speed frosted pink, in order for me to pick up a faster setting product, we are working on picking up beads to start, okay? So if I submerge my brush, and I'm trying to go with this because I've had students work with the speed frosted pink and they're like, they bounce multiple times on the back end, then they come in and they bounce, and they're like, how come I'm only able to pick up a bead that big? I have such a big brush, but I'm only able to pick up something. Well, the reason why is because you released way too much liquid off the back end of the brush. If I take my brush and I load it, and I barely touch that end, this sucker is loaded. That way, when I pull down and I physically start to bounce inside the powder, take a look at how much of a bigger bead I'm going to be able to pick up. And if I need something larger than that, if I load this up with something, watch this, I'm not even gonna tap the brush. I just wanna demonstrate. I have to come in with more force, right? That way I'm able to grip, right? I'm able to grip one side. You can see, I don't even like that because it's dry on one side. Right? We need to be able to come in, pull down, and really bounce on the bottom end of the bead so that you're successfully able to pick something up. And when you set it with a controlled manner, you notice that everything is going to self-level. That's really good. This color is absolutely smoking. Awesome to do milk bath nails. Really, really popular. The setting time is ferociously fast. Okay, now everything again is not going to pick up the same. You'll notice that if I'm working with, say, Cover Cherry Blossom, right? One of the things I want to be able to do when I'm working with this, and if I have powder that's all the way down to the end, I'm gonna kind of tilt this out, right? So that I have a nice even surface to pick up on. If I submerge my brush and I tap one side, I want it loaded. Don't just set it into the surface. You physically have to pull down initially before you start to bounce. Pull down, start to bounce inside the powder so that you're able to grab enough, again, on one side. Don't make the mistake of dragging through. You're going to notice when you drag through, you're gonna have one side that's really thin and one side is thick. And the problem with this bead is when we set this down, I have so much acrylic on that back end and I don't have enough here. It's gonna be very difficult for it to run down, right, towards the free edge. And so in order for you to be able to pick up the right amount, again, load it up and then pull down and then physically start to kind of bounce inside so you create that divot and you're able to get a nice, even, round bead, right, a round pearl on one side of your brush. Let's get back to cover paint. Okay, now if I was using a smaller brush, right, everyone's like, what's easier to use? Well, I personally like to use the larger brush because I can get more product, I can control it better. But for those of you guys that just bought the system and you got this inside your kit, for you to be able to pick up large beads with this smaller brush, we have to load the hair up. I'm gonna submerge this thing, I'm gonna get this sucker loaded up. I am barely going to touch that end. That way, when I physically come down and start to bounce inside the powder, take a look at how big of a bead I'm going to be able to execute by just bouncing on that one side. Look at that. Now you'll notice, right? Look at that. Look at the difference now. When I go to set it down, do you notice it's a lot thinner on this side and it's thicker on the inside? That makes all the difference when you're setting it down onto the nail. Again, submerge, lightly tap on one side. You physically, again, look at the angle. If I'm holding it at this angle, right, I'm coming here at like almost a 45-degree angle before I actually start to bounce inside. Look at that difference. Do you see how everything loads up towards the back so that when you set it down, it's going to be thin? Now, you're going to notice that when you're setting it down on a nail, okay, if I have the right consistency, if I submerge my brush and I lightly tap, and I'm actually able to come down and grab myself with cover powders and core. I'm gonna count 1, 2, 3, and then around 4, I'm gonna release. Look at this. I'm using the very, very tip of the brush to just kind of lightly slide it. I'm barely touching it to get it as tight to the side as I can. As the product starts to move down, I can kind of control it by touching the surface. Notice where I pull, the very, very tip of my hair, right here. Right, from where the smile is, look at this, from the front, wipe my brush. From the front here, right, as I continue to work. Now you're going to notice that once I get down to this position, I don't have it fully locked and covered. Well, at this point, I could start to use the body of the brush and manipulate the shape by going over the top. Once I have it in position, covering a majority of that negative space, I'll be able to use my brush and just kind of guide it through to kind of shape the natural overlay that we're looking for. Okay, this is, again, really important. You cannot, watch this. If I was to take, all right, let's just pop a nail on here. If I was to take, right, my brush, and we'll go with the smaller brush, right, and I was to pull on the side that I'm going to pick up, right, you notice that. I'm always on the opposite side before I bounce inside the powder. I never, ever go like this. I don't pull towards myself, right? And then hold it into the surface, praying that I'm going to pick something up. Look at how dry and crappy, right? It's like a rock formation. That is going to be very, very difficult to apply over the surface of the nail, okay? Acrylic is actually really easy to work with, Beauty in Cheryl's world. It's a matter of just understanding these basic fundamentals. Watch this, and I'll demonstrate, right? I feel that if you have never had instruction or you've never had the right kind of guidance on how to pick it up, because this is one of the most important things. And then understanding the consistency where you're gonna get that gel-like, self-leveling, slow movement, right? Then it will be difficult. But if you do this, if you submerge your brush, you load it correctly, right? I tap barely on one side, I pull down, I bounce, 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 row. Look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Look at that. Release. Comes off easy. I'm using almost a gel-like touch. Like, I want to show you guys how you can control it. Use a gel-like kind of touch on the surface. Barely touch it. You see how I'm kind of guiding it from side to side? I'm not sliding through the body. I'm not forcing it like this. I'm not using the body, the brush, to move it out. The initial setup, when the product is moving from here to here, we're trying to create as natural of a overlay as possible. You know, the easy part about working with gel is that because it's already in that really nice self-leveling consistency, all you got to kind of do is kind of guide it into place. With acrylic, let's try to create that consistency. But the key, again, here's the key: submersing your brush. I'm working with a number 9, all right? I'm gonna barely tap it. I have this loaded. Look at the angle, right? Let me give you guys another angle, right? It's almost side. I'm trying to get this without spilling it down the side of the powder, right? I have to physically pull down before we start. You see that little divot I created? But do you see how it naturally creates an even structure from side to side? Right? You like both. I agree. I love both. Wait till you start working with Young Nails acrylic, and wait till you actually start using these techniques, and then you can start performing beautiful overlays. So again, let's get back to my brush, my signature series, okay? If I submerge my brush and I tap dead center, if I pull down, bounce, 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 and I count 1, 2, 3, 4, release, look at that. You see how it's all even? I'm gonna be able to use that really easy, light kind of sliding motion towards the cuticle area. I can get a little bit tighter right there. Just lightly press it, it'll form. You don't have to force it. I would love for you guys to get to a point where all you wanna do is try to get the product to move from here to here. And then once it stops, you could either do 2 things. You can either start brushing it forward, or you could use the body of the brush to kind of contour some of the thickness towards the free edge, right, to create that overlay, right? And that's the most important thing. Let's get another tip, all right? So don't make the mistake, again, the biggest mistake that a lot of beginners make when they're picking up acrylic is they take their brush, right, and they swirl it. They swirl it, right? And then what they do is, like, you'll notice the construction of the brush. You see how it's flat right there? It's pinched at the end of the ferrule for a reason. That way, when I press on one side, it flattens out the tip, right? If I was to take my brush and just pull it on my towel, take a look at how flat that tip gets. That's what we want. And if I was to actually take my brush and swirl it to a point, look at that. The advantage of getting it to a point is, like, if you're doing detail work, if I was to take my brush and dip it and I swirl it, I've removed a majority of the monomer. Well, I still have enough monomer to come in and pick up like little blending beads. You see that? That's like if you needed to apply it just right here, maybe at the corner if you're doing a repair. You know, I feel that a lot of people, what they end up doing is they try to use a pickup technique. They press the brush and they try to get a small bead and they touch it and they end up getting something monster. You see that? Like if you're trying to do, let's say you have, like you're trying to fit it, and I'm gonna show you something. Let's say you're like, again, for me that's acceptable, but let's say there was a little bit of a gap on the side and you're trying to get product into that corner. If you're using a traditional pickup, if I was to submerge my brush and tap it and I barely touched it, that is a lot of product to try to fit into that corner right here. So what I need to do, I need to submerge my brush. I need to spin my brush. I need to get what I call a precision point. With the precision point, I'm gonna touch, bro, look at that. I'm able to get something where now I could get right into, say, that area, just kind of get it into place, give it a couple of seconds to sit, and then start brushing it through. And as you can see, it doesn't overwhelm the whole entire surface. You're able to apply precision without basically flooding the area with an excess amount of acrylic. And again, especially if you're using a bigger brush, right? A lot of the times, like back in the day when I was teaching a lot of 3D art, right? Even picking up beads, like if I was using a brush like this, how would you do 3D art using a monster brush like this? Well, the key is if you take your brush and you spin it to a point, right? Then you have precision. What you're going to be able to do is touch the surface to get what I call a microscopic kind of bead. If I set that down to the surface and let it self-level, watch this. If I continue to spin my brush to release monomer, it's firm enough here where if I actually start to put pressure, look at that. I'm not even using one of those detailers. I'm using a monster brush to create detailed petals, right? Look at that. And again, if I did not spin my brush, if I was to take my brush, right, and do what I normally do, tap it here, even if I was to touch it, like look at the difference, look at how big that is and look at how runny that becomes. That is like double the size of what I needed to create it. Right? So if you guys are picking up for precision application or you're picking up for, say, even detailed work, like the key to taking your brush, spinning it out, releasing a lot of, there's still enough monomer in here where if I barely touch the surface, I'm going to get what I call, look at that. It's still on one side of the brush, but it's just on the very, very end of the tip. This makes all the difference in the world when you're actually trying, right, to get smaller sizes. Let me just remove that from my nail. Now here, like picking up for, say, a free edge. Like if I was, just go ahead and get my form. Let's go ahead and place a tip on here, okay? Right, the pickup for the free edge, and I feel this is really important. A lot of beginners when they're, and I'm not even going to build the smile line yet. I want to be able to show you guys when you're actually building your tips. So I'm going to take my form, I'm going to pre-pinch, I'm going to actually just kind of create that handle, create a natural C curve as you can see. And then what we want to be able to do, for those of you guys that just joined us and you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe, right? And you guys hit that like button. All right, so I'm going to come underneath at an angle. I'm going to literally tilt this up, right, so that it touches the free edge. Now, what we want to do, okay, notice the difference. If I take my brush and I tap it and I pick up a bead of speed white and I don't wait, I go directly to the surface, like that's a problem. I'm going to be like literally, look at, and then I'm trying to chase the product and then it ends up sticking to my brush and creating a mess. Like, you're like, well, I thought it was fast drying. I don't understand why it's doing this. The right way is to, like, you want to be able to use a lot of liquid to pick up a large bead. But to create a clay-like consistency, you have to be able to remove the excess from the opposite side of the brush, okay? So for those of you guys that are learning to build tips or you're doing French after you do reverse application, make sure that when you submerge and you tap on one side and you successfully come in and you bounce, you're like, dude, I got myself a real burly bead. Watch this. If you release, right, and I'm just holding it here for maybe like 3 or 4 seconds, the difference now when I go to surface, everything is not going to move. I'm actually going to have a consistency where I'm going to be able to, back in the day when I was doing traditional smile lines, look at that. Look, you see how I can just naturally shape it up into that smile line? Watch this. So if I'm following and I'm walking it from the top and I'm walking it from the top and I'm walking it from the top, you see how I'm actually able to back in the day when I was able to come in and actually just kind of manipulate, this was the successful way for you to be able to actually shape out your smile lines. Right? We don't do this anymore because it takes way too much time, but I just wanted to demonstrate that what you would be able to do is you'd physically be able to get this on and you'd be able to control the movement of the product, right, from walking. Now, walking up to the top, okay? Let me go ahead and kind of diagram something out. This is really important when you guys are actually working with acrylic, right? Especially with the tip. If we have our finger here, right? Let's just say this is the end of the finger, right? Growth channels run up, okay? This is the end of the growth channel coming straight out. This is the end of the growth channel coming straight out. Our form is on. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to build a tip that goes right up to the end of the growth channels, right? This line. We don't want to go past the line. We don't want to go, we want to stay within, right? We want to stay within the growth channel. It doesn't matter what shape you're building. It could be, again, it could be tapered square. It could be square. It could be oval. It could be stiletto. You have to be within the growth channels. Now, here's the thing. When I set a bead to the form here, as it starts to move out, right? What's going to end up happening, I press from here, the bead's going to start to move out, right? It's going to start to move out like this, okay? The area that you want to walk from the top is this quadrant right there. The top quadrant of the bead is where you walk it. As you're walking it up to the top, if it surpasses the growth channel, you want to bring it back straight. You don't want to slide it diagonally to the corner. That's going to mess you up. You want to bring it straight in. That way, whatever excess is right here, you'll be able to continue walking to the top. So you'll notice, right? Let me just go ahead and remove this real fast. This is not dry. You know what's crazy? If that was ELO, that white would have already been set. For those of you guys who have an opportunity to work with the, those of you guys have an opportunity to work with the extreme low odor, dude, that white cranks. Everything cranks. The whole system is absolutely ridiculous. We're gonna be doing this too. The next round, I'm gonna be really focusing on just key, for me, for all of you guys out there, like you could watch me do nails, you could, you know, great. But for those of you guys that are really learning how to do nails successfully, learning these real small tips and tricks to actually building successful work is gonna make all the difference. I'm not gonna get into the body. We're gonna really focus on that tip first. What I'm gonna end up doing is taking a bead and successfully, again, submerge your brush. I wanna be able to come down, bounce, 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 bounce. Now watch, if I'm doing a body, I'm gonna do a smile line real fast. Wait, 3, 4, release, right? I'm just going to lightly kind of slide to the cuticle area. If I need to kind of manipulate the very, very front, I'm gonna be able to do that. If I want to prevent it from overrunning, then I'm gonna pick it up, okay? I'm gonna pick it up flat, right? That way it stops. And then what I'll be able to do, you can see I'm gonna be able to control, right, getting the depth that I want, right? By just pulling up and then using what I call this little wedge of the brush to start tucking it back. But you'll also notice my hands are connected. If my hands are connected, I'm able to hold the brush like this. Then I'm able to use that wedge to really kind of control, say, my right. And then I'm able to do the same thing. You see, I have control of my brush. What I'm able to do is come in and really do detail without shaking. I always have connection with my brush. And for those of you guys, again, that are learning, balance and stability when you're doing nails is going to be one of the key fundamentals for you having success. And it doesn't matter if you're using acrylic gel, using your electric file, polishing the nail, applying top coat, applying protein bond, you have to have connection while you work. Again, key fundamental when you're actually doing nails. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna be able to take the form. I'm gonna place this down. I'm gonna go ahead and actually put this on. I'm gonna open this up, create a C curve. For those of you guys that struggle by using 2 hands, watch this. If this is open, and for those of you guys that struggle, remember all you wanna do is secure the side. If I have the handle, right? If I have the handle and I'm actually able to come in and I'm able to work it, boom, right? For those of you guys that struggle, get it on, secure the side, ready to rock and roll. Just another way for you to get the product on. Now, since we have the smile line in reverse application and we're trying to get the white as deep as we physically can, all right? What I'm gonna do is get this out of the way. I'm gonna submerge my brush. I'm gonna load it up. I wanna be able to come in. I wanna be able to pull down, bounce, 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 bounce. Notice that what I'm doing, I'm releasing liquid right down the bottom, releasing liquid from the back end. I'm gonna set this right up to my smile. Okay, watch. Walk from the side, even. The top, look at this. I'm walking everything from the top end of the bead. And then as I start getting closer, I could start to tuck it into that corner, back over the top, even from the top, even. Bring it in even so it creates bulk so that you're actually able to walk it all the way up to that edge, nice and tight. Don't worry whether you get all the way to the edge. You can do detail beads after you're done. Once you have the white on, it is a matter of you using the base of the brush to kind of square it off, using the base of the brush, and notice when I work, I'm always connected. So you see how I'm actually able to get up to the top? You know, at this point right here, if I wanted to tuck it, I could wipe my brush, kind of square it off. I could use that tip, watch this. And all I'm gonna do is, you see I'm coming from like kind of underneath to kind of poke it up into that corner. Boom, done. Don't even have to worry about that. But you'll notice from the side, right? I'm literally trying to get the majority of the acrylic in an upward ramp, trying to force it. A great way of practicing, and again, when you are building your free edges and you're learning to do consistency, okay? Let's just get there's a smaller finger right here. The walking from the top is big. All of you guys out there that are learning how to sculpt nails, once you can learn how to sculpt your free edges, super successful, I'm telling you, it's gonna be really, really tough for you guys to slap tips on. I really do believe that like the biggest struggle for most beginners is trying to get that form on tight. Let's make this difficult. I'll show you. Like if this is dead square, but let's just clip that off and make it look like that. Like how am I gonna get a form on? Like you're gonna notice, like I'm trying to fight the corners. It's like, okay, I get the corners, but I have that, you see that giant space that I have in between? It doesn't even fit naturally. What we wanna be able to do in this position, we have to be able to shape our, let me just grab some scissors real fast. We wanna be able to shape the form so that you're going to actually have a really clean application. I wanna be able to remove this. I wanna be able to clip off the front end. I wanna be able to apply the form so that I have a nice ledge right here in front. For those of you guys that just joined us, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. Boom, again, create this, open this up. Now I'm in a position where it's like, okay, I could come in at I'm coming in at an angle. I'm coming in at an angle. Once I come in at an angle and then I have it right there, then right when I have it, I'm just gonna rock this back just slightly, boom. And as you can see, I'm actually able to fit that so that it it's tight. And that's what we want. We want something that's going to be able to fit that's nice and even. All right, so this is, again, when it comes to building the tip, right? One of the things you guys always notice, and I'll work with cover pink, if I was gonna go with this and I was gonna try to build something naturally, if I submerge my brush, and again, remember, submerge my brush, tap on one side, pull down, bounce, 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 get yourself a nice bead on one side, release the liquid off the back end of the brush. If I set this down right onto that nail, okay, right down onto the nail, watch this. Like, there's also another way. I could walk it to the side. Look at this. This is kind of crazy because all I'm doing is just walking to the side. Do you see it? I literally brought it, I created a full well tip, how everything is even. So at this point here, it's like, okay, I have enough product on the front end. All I have to do is manipulate the shape by using this part of my brush, right? I could drag it out, right, to kind of create even length. But you're going to notice in this position, if I was going with, say, an active length square nail, I've created that active length square nail. Again, completely different, right? Completely different than actually walking it up to the smile line. I set it down like a full well tip. I walked it down to the very end of the growth channel. As everything moved out, I started using the body of the brush. Let's do that one more time. I feel like, again, seeing the example done, you know, for those of you guys that just joined us, you'll be able to see exactly what we're going to do. So for those of you guys that missed out, and for those of you guys that just joined, make sure to subscribe to the channel for some incredible education. I'm gonna go ahead and clip this off. I'm gonna clip this off. I wanna be able to come down. I wanna be able to create that ledge, bam. I wanna be able to pre-pinch the form. Dude, perfect. I'm gonna be able to come in. I'm gonna hold on to the base of the form. I'm coming in at an angle, coming in at an, like you'll notice, I wanna show you guys from the side. I'm not coming, I don't come straight in. I come in at an angle and then lightly kind of tilt up so that it's straight, okay? Don't come straight in. Sometimes it makes it really challenging. If you come in at an angle and you're able to kind of fit it underneath, as I'm doing now, what you're going to notice is I start to tilt back and try to straighten everything out. I'll be able to secure it at the side. Oops, right there, right? So get this out of the way. Working on these, I'll tell you the truth, working on this practice hand is way harder than working on real fingers. The real fingers, the forms don't come off. It's like crazy. If you guys are working on this practice hand, which is a great tool to practice, you guys will notice that when you actually start working on a real hand, it's like way easier to control. Okay, so I have the form on. Again, let's go ahead and pick up a bead. I'm going to bounce. I'm going to successfully get it on one side. I'm going to release the liquid. Watch this. I'm going to set this down right there on the nail. I'm going to walk it all the way down to the growth channel from the back end. Walk it all the way down to the end of the growth channel. As it starts to move, all I'm going to do is use the body of the brush to kind of get it even. Once I actually get this even, then your choice, I could drag this out to create the length of the desire. Watch this. I could drag this out, and it doesn't matter how thin it is because you're going to do your overlay. It's like, what do they want? Do they want something that is going to be slightly almond shaped? Well, you have the ability to create that. And for those of you guys that are working on bitten nails, the advantage of actually creating a free edge that is full well, you can actually get the product to dry. And if their nails are wide and splayed, what you're gonna be able to do is you're gonna be able to pinch right there and create more natural C-curve. And I have plenty of time. I have plenty of time to come in. I have plenty of time to work it. Okay, now going back again to someone who has, say, beautiful natural nails, they don't have issues, you're able to, again, create that smile, and you're working on your reverse. You're like, I gotta get this down. I'm really trying to get my reverse down. Go ahead and put one of these wonky nails on. It's funny, the manufacturer of the product, they actually create like these jagged looking nails, right, for practice, but I'll just go ahead and clip off this. I'll show you what you guys can do. Clip off the edges for practice, okay? And kind of create a smile. And then what we're gonna do is we're just going to round this up and try to create a really deep kind of smile line that we're going to work up against. Again, for practice only, okay? It's assuming that we have, again, just that edge. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get it all the way up to that corner. Boom, okay. Let's go ahead and, again, remove these so they don't get in the way. Let's get our form. All right. Thank you for joining, Annabelle. Really appreciate you coming in here. Why not use a half tip? Why not use half tips? You mean half well? The problem with using, again, the problem with using tips is they're not conducive to everybody's natural nails. You're going to have different shapes, different sizes, and actually to create certain shapes, it's harder to do tips than it is forms. Like true nail ninjas, man, the ones that are doing all the techs out there that have literally that crush beyond belief. And don't get me wrong, again, tips have been around for a very, very long time, but the ones that are really crushing are the ones that sculpt. I've always taught sculptured nails. It's the hardest thing to learn, but once you get it down, you will be separating yourself from the rest of the herd, and that's what you want to be able to do. All right, going back to white, let's go ahead and pick this up. I'm gonna submerge my brush. I wanna be able to pull down. I wanna bounce, bounce, bounce. Again, if I'm working with white, I wanna try to release as much, right, from the back end as I possibly can. You're going to notice, right, now when I set this to this point, okay, watch this. I'm gonna walk it down. I'm gonna get it even with the growth channel. Look at the point. I'm walking it. I'm literally walking it from the top of the bead so that I'm actually able to match up that corner. See that? Boom. I'm gonna do the same thing on the opposite side. As I start walking down, I'm walking almost from the top of the bead so that I'm actually able to shape out. And that's, again, for practice when you're working this out. That's how you're going to be able to get it from side to side, all right, so that it's absolutely perfect. Again, the top part of the bead. This part right here. I'm gonna section this off. Boom. It's that top quadrant. That top quadrant is what you're going to be doing when you're walking off the top. Ooh, modern Mandrel. I appreciate that. I've been teaching nails for over 20 years. It's been a long journey. Young Nails has actually been around for almost 30. At one point, pre-iPhone, the only way to actually get good education was you actually had to go to a trade show, right? And the only way that we were able to actually get the word out about Young Nails is we had to advertise in magazines. And it's like, who the hell reads magazines anymore? They're non-existent. In order to get great education, I would say years ago, not only did you have to go to live classes, but you had to physically, you had to find somebody who really knew what they were doing. And if you were able to successfully get a DVD or a VHS player, like watching people work, there's nothing like it is today. To be able to see the nail that big in this detail and this high definition, it's like next level. I'm one of the co-founders of the company. I'm Gregory, and my brother's Habib. I started the company with my mom in 1992. I am one of the co-founders of the company. All right, so again, we're going with white, right? Watch this. Submerge my brush, load this up, right? Get myself a beautiful bead on one side, release liquid off the back side of the brush, boom. Set this down, nice and even, wipe your brush. Now watch the top bead. Now I'm gonna get it even. So look how I'm walking it. See how I'm barely chasing it from the top? Look at that, I'm able to tuck it in. I'm gonna go back over the top, even with the growth channel, the top part, this part of the bead right here, barely touching, barely touching, barely touching, connection. See that? That right there, and I'm barely touching. If I have great consistency, like at this point right here, it's like, okay, what do we wanna do? Do we wanna bring this into, say, an almond shape? I can drag my brush. If I'm trying to create the right shape, then I have to be able to brush it out and create the desired shape and length. Boom. Greg, I use the swipe and protein bond. Oh my God, I have no lifting anymore. Putting this around, I'm pumped. You know what? It's crazy. Beyond the swipe and beyond the protein bond, your application, your prepping of the nail is probably excellent, and your application is tight. And if your application is tight, it leads to the least amount of filing, which is exactly what you want to be able to do. All right, it's pretty cool to be able to watch that. Okay, let's put this all together now, right? If we were to put this all together and try to create a nail. All right, let's just go ahead and get ourselves, and again, I'm just gonna get one of these wonky looking nails. It doesn't even matter. I'm gonna go ahead and clip off the very, very back end. Let's just go ahead and build something out now. All of the success is in the detail. I always say that in order for you, there's that saying that you need 10,000 hours of practice to be able to get it right. But the problem is if you're practicing the wrong things all the time, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to achieve that success. Again, for me, I'm not interested in I love to teach. I love to do nails. Love to show you guys how to be able to perform the right things, but my focus is making sure that you guys get the fundamentals down. If you guys are a black belt in the fundamentals, whew, dude, there are very few nail technicians that are going to be able to keep up with the style of work that you do, because your work is always with your prep, with your application, with your finishing. It's going to be very hard to compete against that level of work. And again, with the amount of nail technicians that are out there right now, competition is fierce. So in order for you guys to create, let's go ahead and get through prep real fast, I'm sorry. In order for you guys to be able to create works of art, we have to be able to dial every level of preparation, application, finishing down, right? Learning how to use your electric file is probably one of the most important fundamentals. Now, when I'm prepping, you're going to notice that I'm actually gonna be coming to about like 4,000 RPMs. I don't need to go crazy, okay? And when I'm removing shine, I'm not like going side to side. I want to tickle, 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 and then start using a light feathering motion to remove shine from the whole entire surface. Look at this. If I was to take this on the inside and put a lot of pressure on the inside of my wrist, look at that, nothing. So it's the same thing. We want to be able to, again, right, gently remove shine from the surface of the nail. That way, you're going to get not only a very effective, thorough texture, you're going to be able to remove all of the oils and contaminants, right? Or create the right surface so that you can remove, look at that. Again, this is just a plastic nail. I'm using swipe to come in here. Look at all that grime. Once all that grime is removed, then what we want to be able to do is use protein bond. Notice as well, when I'm working with even protein bond, I am balancing. You see my two fingers? This is great. Look at that. Connection, right? I have the finger here, my fingers are out, I'm well connected so that I'm actually able to apply product without shaking. Huge. Submerse, connect, come in. And then with connection, you're actually able, right, to apply, again, acrylics, top coats, gels, without shaking all over the place. Huge key. Let's go ahead and build that free edge. I'm gonna get my form. I'm gonna go ahead and place this underneath. I'm gonna pre-pinch the tip, boom. I'm gonna open this up. I'm gonna come in at an angle. And coming in at that angle, once I have it attached, then I wanna be able to use my hand and slightly tilt it up until it's touching the free edge. Boom, just like this. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a desired, right, tip, right, shape and length. So if I take, again, if I take Cover Pink, I'm trying to get everything in camera so that you guys can see. I'm gonna submerge my brush, I'm gonna lightly tap, I'm gonna pull down, bounce, 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 get myself a nice bead, and I'm gonna show you guys something. I noticed that a lot didn't pick up. Look at the monomer. You see, from working all that white, you see how the monomer got all contaminated? I need to clean this out, and I need to get some new monomer. So I'm just going to, there's a little bit left inside here. It's not much. For those of you guys that are practicing and working, you notice that your whites like turn milky. I noticed immediately as I tried to pick up the powder, it was like very difficult to pick up. You need to make sure that you have clean monomer when you guys are practicing, especially if you're going back and forth between pinks and whites. You have to make sure like the level of clarity right now, that's absolutely perfect. That's what we want to be able to achieve. So for those of you guys that are struggling, that's huge. All right, so what we want to be able to do, let's go ahead and keep this outside. I want to be able to submerge my brush. I want to lightly tap on one side. Oh, huge difference. I can notice immediately that I'm actually able to pick up a nice fluffy bead. I'm going to release the liquid from the back side of my brush. I'm now going to set this right here. I'm going to release, look at that. Even if it came off a little bit awkward, it's not running. Walk it down the side, get it even with the growth channel. Walk it from the top, even. Walk it from the top. I use the same method when I'm doing pink. Walk it from the top, even. Walk it from the top, even. Walk it from the top. Till I get to this point, then I can start tucking it. Once I have it even from the sides, once it's connected, then whatever shape, look at this, whatever shape you want to do, pull for length, and then use the side of the brush to kind of taper the edges. Let's go, I'll show you guys how to do something really cool. Like if I want to go with a really, really tight coffin, I'm going to try to bring this as tight as I can at the very, very end, almost stiletto-like, and then I'm going to square off my tip at the end. See that? Then I'm going to square off my tip at the end. So again, it doesn't matter whether you're working with cover pink or you guys are working with that. Do you see how I just follow the natural shape? You see how it's coming off the end of the growth channel? These are all things that matter. For those of you guys that just joined us, make sure to subscribe. If you guys want to get this education weekly between myself and Karen, we're gonna be crushing, helping you guys, showing you guys how to successfully do nails all the time. All right, let's do the overlay. I'm gonna submerge my brush. I'm gonna tap it. Again, I need a lot to cover this surface. Boom. I need to come down, and you see that divot? I need to flatten that out, all right? Because it's gonna be really hard to work around that. Lightly tap, pull down, bounce, 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 bounce. Now I need to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, release. Now I have, again, look at this. I'm going to use the tip of the brush, and I'm really gonna concentrate on just using a light kind of sliding motion around the cuticle area as the bead starts to move down. It's not moving fast, but it's creating enough thickness so that if I start pulling here from the side and the front of the bead, I'm gonna stop right here. Watch this. Look, see how I just kind of pulled through? Okay, now take a look at the side profile. Do you see, like, if I'm guiding it down, you see how I pull the side? Do you see the thickness? Everything is rounding off. As I continue to work the product through the body, everything is shaping out naturally. Everything is rounding off. It's not getting away from me. Everything is guiding into place. Perfect. I don't need to do anything crazy from here. Everything is rounded off at the cuticle areas. Everything is set into position. I don't need to try to drag it out all the way to the very, very end. I'm gonna show you guys how to use a blending bead. I can actually use the base of the brush and just kind of flatten that area out. If I want to redistribute a little bit of volume back, I could always use the body of the brush just to slightly press back to kind of redistribute. But everything is setting the way I want it. I have a great consistency working at that free edge. All right, now, here's the thing. How to fill the rest of that space. If I submerge my brush and I tap and I come down and I bounce, 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 and I just wait a few seconds, I'm gonna set the bead in between that line and the tip, and I'm gonna blend back. Look at that. Now, all I have to do is use the body of the brush, and all I have to do is just walk it from side to side, wipe my brush, Start walking it down towards the tip. Wet my brush. Really start focusing on redistributing all that thickness. If I need to go back up, see I'm going back up to kind of fill. I'm using that technique of going to the side over the top. Right? But I'm literally working the product from side to side so that I'm actually able to fill out all that space and create a nail that is going to be really, really easy to file. All right. So how do I change up my monomer? So as it starts getting, again, right, as it starts getting nasty and it gets real shallow on the bottom, never flush it down the sink. You want to just, it'll evaporate. So what you want to be able to do is just take a towel. Use whatever is in here. This is really important to kind of clean your brush. Let's go ahead and clean our brush first before we're finished. One of the things I want to be able to do, again, is I want to be able to set my brush inside here. I'm always going to use my towel to kind of press out all the acrylic that I have in here, constantly spin my brush. Remember, for those of you guys that just joined, make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you guys want notifications on live education, we're covering fundamental work every single day, designs, all product releases. But again, this channel is devoted to your success in the fundamentals of doing nails, so that when you step up and you start practicing, or for those of you guys that are advanced, it's gonna make a lot of sense, especially with the techniques that we've developed. Boom. Okay, now, if you wanna dispose of this, I'm gonna take this towel, literally, all I'm gonna do is just come straight inside here and let this towel absorb it all. Boom. Make sure that we get this completely cleaned out. If there's any glitter inside here, boom. As you can see, completely clean. That will all evaporate out. Will be nothing left, and you're ready to go. All right? Thank you, guys. I really, really appreciate you guys tuning in. Mondays and Wednesdays are my day to go YouTube Live. Katie, I really, really appreciate you. Agnes, I really appreciate you. Benny Girl, we love you. I love you as well. Thank you. Wayne Perez, on which time do you start daily with training? So we do normally 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So Monday through Friday, I'm usually, Mondays and Wednesdays, Karen's Tuesday, Thursdays, and Fridays. Karen is so sick. Next level, Director of Education. She's going to be able to teach you guys a ton. Between both of us, we really want to be able to, again, go into the fine details of working, so that for those of you guys, again, that are working, and we have a lot in the line, ask questions, send us your comments, subscribe. The only way you're going to be able to get notifications. We feel that this channel is one of the biggest assets that any pro can use. Anyone learning the art of nails, we want to make sure that you guys are going to be able to get the best education out there, so that your road to success is going to be, dude, it's going to be easier, okay? Thank you, guys. I really, really appreciate it. Have a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Much love. Peace.